Welcome on back to the new episode of the Planning Pulse podcast. My name is Beau Mellin, joined as always with Matt Harvison. Today is going to go ahead and be episode 2 of our sales planning mini series. So, Matt and I have really enjoyed when we're doing this podcast, kind of diving deep into some of these topics. And a lot of times we can't cover everything we need to in one episode. So, these mini series that we've done in the past on features and functionality or workforce planning, or maybe in the future we're going to be doing an integration mini series, right? A lot of things like that where one episode doesn't suffice. And so now we're going to go ahead and be doing episode 2 of our sales planning mini series today. Matt, how are you doing?
Dude, I'm fired up. It's always good to be on with you. And like you said, the mini series I feel like was a great way for us to break down maybe larger, more complex topics into smaller bite-sized chunks, just a lot easier and kind of flows together. So I think the mini series are a great way for our listeners and our subscribers. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like the content that you see, but our subscribers to be able to pop in and learn just a little bit about sales planning, the different parts of sales planning. I know that you said this is episode 2. We're going to get into the demonstration here shortly, but really excited to really talk a little bit more about that bottoms up capacity planning today.
Yeah, 100%. And since this is episode 2, if you're watching on YouTube right now, you should go click pause, go watch episode 1, because that was kind of the intro into sales planning. And now we're going to be getting a little bit further into the process. So Matt, last episode, we kind of hit on a high-level summary. What is sales planning? What are we looking to accomplish? We set initial top-down targets that we're going to go ahead and be shooting for throughout the year. How do we get to that top-down target? Well, we analyze our reps and we apply quota assumptions, maybe by market or by segment or by product, right? We can get really granular, do it at a pretty high level. Today, we're going to be getting even further into the process and see what is the outcome of applying that quota to reps, whether it's people we're bringing on or people we already have, and assessing kind of the gap between that top-down target and that bottoms-up bookings plan. And so it really helps kind of marry the overall process that we started in episode 1 and that Matt is going to go ahead and dive on into in this specific episode. So without further ado, Matt, maybe I kick it over to you. You share your screen, and then we go ahead and dive right in.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue too, because when we talk about, like you said, how do we get that top-down target? Well, a lot of times those are assigned from finance, right? They're taking a look at historic achievement. They're taking a look at what are our revenue targets or what are our overall company performance goals. So sometimes these booking targets are provided to us. It's our job going through sales planning to see if this is actually going to be an achievable goal for us. And if it's not, maybe we make those adjustments up or down like we talked about. That's kind of where we left off last time, was going through the top-down targets. We went into quota assumptions, just like you said. How do we apply, maybe by segment, maybe by market, maybe by order type, or maybe by product? And we went into productivity as well. So are we going to be more productive or less productive than we were in years past? So that top-down quota assignment is really what we left off with last time. Now where we are today is getting a look at that bottoms-up target and aligning the goals between where we are from our team today and what our top-down targets are. You can see with that initial target of $60 million, what we're trying to achieve this year leaves us short by about $2.5 million. You can also see that there's a headcount delta, not just the headcount delta here specifically, but you can see the curve that we see over the course of the year aligns closely with this delta to target. What that means to us is we're also factoring in normal attrition that we can see from our team as well. So it's not just that bottoms up gap from an overall headcount perspective related to quota, but it's factoring in attrition of our team over the course of the year based off of historic attrition that we see as well. But right now, our goal is to close this gap of $2.5 million by maybe bringing on new heads, maybe increasing what our quota expectations are. We know that we've got our maximum quota expectation set based on what we did in episode 1. Now our goal is to take a look at this 2.5 and really start to break down how or where we need to be looking to bring on new sales reps. As we can see, just dependent upon the type of level or the different type of market segment, we may have different needs that we need to bring in. So in this case, we can see, we need to bring in some folks for the customer development team or the Stockton team. They have the largest delta to target. So when we think of our bottoms up plan and getting into plan staffing, that's where we really need to start, is by getting in and adding to the Stockton team. Now, when I think of plan staffing, this is our overall current open requisitions that we have out. You can see that it grows over the course of the year, which is normal for us. You can see our ads overall by different teams. And of course, we could drill in here. What I like to call out specifically when we are looking to bring on new resources is that it's never just going to be hit the ground running and all of a sudden 100% quota is going to be kept up with on a monthly basis. But there's a ramp schedule that's associated with bringing on a new head. Now, you can see, let me expand this for us. We can actually factor in a few different components when we're thinking about how to build a ramp schedule. In this case, you can see it's done by segment, where maybe small, medium, large enterprise have different ramping speeds, as well as a speed correlated to our ramp type. If this is somebody who's transferring from another segment, if this is somebody who's maybe transferring from another region, or if this is somebody with a lot of experience in this industry. So our ramp type associated can be specific by type, as well as segment, or even region if we wanted to do that as well. But it wouldn't really mean anything to us if we weren't able to actually go in and look to see our actual ramp and, is it going to correlate to where we're projecting? So if we put in our ramp schedule, is that actually where we're achieving? So if we're looking at 100% ramp, you can see our bulk is right here around the 7, 8, 9, 10 month time period. If we're looking at our ramp over here, we're looking at 7, 8, 9, 10 month. That's about where 100% is. So our forecasted ramp schedule is relatable to what our actual ramp schedule has been hitting here. Now, again, I know we dug in, we saw the 2.5 here. We need to add a few new hires or new hire requests to what our planned rep outlook looks like. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a copy here for us. Let's copy these. I'm just going to copy these 3 rows. So we knew that it was Stockton, and I'll go ahead and just make Stockton across the board. We don't have open requisitions for these folks yet, so I'll leave the requisition ID blank. Now we want to hire them. We know that they're going to be mid-market. Not going to worry about overlay quota. That'll be another topic for us for another day. But I'm going to go ahead and factor in that we want to hire everybody beginning of the year. We're going to have default quota. They're just net new. So I'm going to save this change for us. Now, when we think of adding planned hires, so you can see our delta target and our headcount delta went down by adding on these 3 heads. When we think of adding new hires into our plan here, there's a lot of different steps that are going to come into play, right? We think of what we talked about in our workforce planning mini-series. When you add the new hire request, it'll go through a layer of approvals, budgetary approvals, finance will review, the sales directors will review to ensure that this is a planned hire that we need to make. Once that happens, we can then publish our planned hires out to Workday HCM to open up that requisition to begin recruiting for those positions. So by adding them in here, we're starting to achieve the closure of the gap between our bottoms up and our top down target. But we're also going to communicate with finance so finance can update their forecast for salary, benefit, tax related. And we're going to update our workforce planning team as well. So that way they know that we want to go in and open the requisitions for those team members. Now, when we take all of our planned reps that we've got, in this case, we've got 18 planned reps, we marry that with our existing reps. So now we've got a total rep count of 103. So all of our existing plus our planned to get into our total coverage or total rep count here as well. So let me open this up. Now, this is going to be that sales-based roster that we're going to be receiving from Workday HCM. You can see levels, teams, employee IDs, all of the factors, all the information that we need about each one of our employees. So just a really quick look at bottoms-up planning for us. I don't know, Beau, I know I ran through that relatively quickly. How do you, talk about, sort of the bottoms-up plan with a lot of the customers that you have?
Yeah. And before I even dive into that, I think this is something that's really exciting to show, as we always hit on the fact that adaptive is organizational-wide planning. And just in this dashboard, we're getting top-down targets from finance. We're doing planned staffing and taking a look at our existing roster, and we're integrating that with our HRIS system. We're applying their quotas that are going to help inform the revenue operations team. right? All in one place. We're doing planning for the entire organization across teams. We can share these out and collaborate with each other all in one cloud-based model and dashboard. Just something like all inside of one dashboard, right? We're planning for the entire organization. Now, when you talk about the bottoms up plan, right, that's where we apply the quota on the quota assumptions and maybe an attainment percentage to our people, right? On this tab, we can see, we had 103 people, 85 right now, 18 joining throughout the year. When are they ramped? When are they fully ramped to expect that 103 heads fully going after 100% of their quota, right? In this model specifically, if you come on down, all these columns are a lot of dimensions that we want to be able to plan and report on. And when you think about in this environment, we're applying quota based on market or based on like segment, right? And then we're mapping those to specific states and geographies and regions and territories, which gets into territory carving, which we're going to be covering in the next episode to kind of make sure we have an accurate and equitable distribution of accounts and reps across our entire, kind of market that we're trying to chase down. But in this example, Matt, right, we have our quota column over on the left that your cursor's kind of, or on the right, sorry, that your cursor's kind of over. And we have default, or we can have a custom quota, right? If we're applying the default quota, it's going to take the quota assumptions that we applied in episode 1 based on you being an SMB, a mid-market, or an enterprise seller. And then it's going to go ahead and apply that. Now, if you're a new hire, right, it's going to go ahead and also take that ramping schedule into account that we talked about on the plan staffing tab with new accelerated and transfer ramp schedules and start dates and end dates, right? The start dates and the end dates make sure that the quota gets applied automatically for them on the appropriate month, or if someone gets termed, that date is going to be integrated in from our system. Quota stops being applied to them. So it helps with the headcount gap as well and the delta to target. If someone leaves, we know that our headcount delta may go up by 1 in Q4 if someone leaves inside of Q4. Last kind of piece here is when we take a look at like the bottoms up summary and we get to the around like $60-ish million of our bottoms up bookings plan, that's what's taking every single rep that we have on here, the 85 plus the 18 that are joining throughout the year, applying the quota based on the market they're in. And then that gives us our bottoms up bookings plan number to generate the gap versus a tops down target. So kind of when we go tab tops down targets through quota, through bottoms up summary, plan staffing, and existing reps, that's really where we can kind of go through our overall sales planning process in terms of staffing, in terms of productivity percentages, quota and attainment, to try to make sure how are we looking versus that initial target we set for the year. That's how kind of a lot of my customers, Matt, think about the bottoms up process here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So when we think about the quota setting practice or that we did in the first episode, that directly relates to the assignments that we have within our sales roster as well. You're absolutely right. We want to make sure that, you've got the ability to tweak or edit, just like you said, if you want to do overlays or overlay quotas or the ability to do custom quota on an individual basis, that's possible to do as well. In this example, we're just taking the default, which relates back to our quota assumptions that we made in episode 1. So I think that's a great way to sort of end the episode today on bottoms up sort of capacity planning. Again, like you said, Beau, it's all being done in the same cloud-based platform, multi-department planning across the organization. So your sales team is going in, ensuring that the targets that they receive from finance are achievable. If there's tweaks that need to be made to quota expectations, to planned hires, that also gets communicated back to the HR team, that gets communicated back to the finance team, so that everybody across the organization is able to update in a continuous collaborative fashion. Absolutely.
Great. Well, thanks, Matt. That wraps up episode 2 of our sales planning mini series. Keep your head on a swivel. Next week, we're going to be covering territory carving and maybe some of the ins and outs around accounts and opportunities in that Salesforce integration, which is something that is so key with a lot of our customers that are going through the sales planning process. So everybody, make sure you like and subscribe to the Ocorio YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. You can go ahead and plan on it.